Get started in this morning live. We have so many things to talk about. But first question that I want everybody to say or remember, let's not forget to give thanks to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Yahweh, Yahshua, Emmanuel. We give thanks to God and we give grace to each other. And I just pray for each and every one of us to have proper blessings and to have the least route of resistance in your own personal life, good or bad. But today, two things can be true. One, where were you at when silver hit $100? Not only hit it, came back down through, and then pushed back over. So now it's going to be a very interesting decision. Is silver, and this is interesting, is silver going to make $100 the new floor during this run, which would be very interesting if we never see double digits after we figure out this level. Two, we talked about PLG for several days, how it was acting erratically and it needed to go much higher, presented a much better opportunity as it fell down to the 240 levels, 230s. I think on Monday or Wednesday, it came down to 256. Yeah, so Wednesday was no, actually it came down lower than that. I felt like it came down one time. Yeah, right here. Okay, 256. So it came down to 256 that last time even. And now it's starting to break out like we were trying to anticipate here. I was outside. It's cold in Michigan. Very cold. It was negative. I think it's bouncing around. I think it says 1 degrees right now. But this is the high for the day. It's going to go down to -8 by this afternoon. The kids didn't have school because it was so cold this morning. But they only had a half day anyhow. So PLG is doing great. Now we'll see the continuation pattern here because it's set up pretty nicely. Trying to catch my breath because it's like literally shivering from being so cold outside. But platinum, and then I want to get into crypto, but we got to talk metals real quick. We had the target up to 2008-19 we've been talking about, so let's see how it reacts when we get to there. Obviously, we know we're very oversold or overbought in a lot of these avenues, but there is so much demand. There's so much stockpiling. There's such a squeeze going on that we're making different things. And again, right when Trump starts walking something back yesterday about Greenland, now all of a sudden we have new wars popping up today. So the crypto market, it's no different than we talked about yesterday. We have to make sure that this is not a bearish pennant that we were forming. And fortunately with this here, let me fill this out. Fortunately, now that this is extending out, well, it's not fortunate yet, but if we could extend this out now, because we're getting some evidence, we need this not to be a rejection point across the market. Because Bitcoin's popping warning signals that we could be in a bearish pennant. And if that's the case, you don't want to be in that. So we need to make sure this is not a bearish consolidation here and not break down. You know, the longer we stay in this, the worse. So we need to get out of this. Out of it. You know, we need to get out of it. So if you're here this morning, I really appreciate you tuning in. Knick-knack, paddywhack, -39 in Saskatchewan. Oof. Yep, we're not getting that cold. It's only going to feel -26 today, I believe it said. But we're approaching, for this time of the year, record lows. It's not a record low. I think we're at -23 or whatever, but it's still pretty damn cold, especially where we live. We're not used to the Saskatchewan. Even though we're cold here, we're not that cold. We are not that cold by a long shot. So just for transparency, let's do the intro. And we'll be talking about XRP. We'll look at some of the volume and what we need to do to avoid this possibly forming into like some kind of bearish pennant here, which it kind of has set up if we don't break to the top. But we could call it a symmetrical triangle, I guess, depending on where we start the angles from. But we just have to be cautious here, cautiously optimistic. And something's not right in the world right now. Silver, gold's about the next milestone here is gold is going to hit $5,000. And that's never happened before. So something's going on in the world that we don't know about yet going into the weekend. And we could have a gap up over the weekend, which is the scariest proposition for Monday morning. Because our currency is continuing to be devalued. I don't know if anybody's been going to the store lately or trying to spend their dollars. It's becoming more and more and more expensive. It's becoming more expensive to buy the things that we're used to. So we've got to try to stay ahead of all of this. And we do have opportunities in crypto. We do have opportunities, well, obviously the miners and the metals. But now it's kind of like we've been there, done that. And now we just kind of have to see it through. For XRP, let me fix this because with the updates, it'll drive you nuts. But this is the way you want to see this is you could do it like this, but we have a wick down, so you want to make sure just from a positioning standpoint. So I mean XRP between the two charts we're fighting. If we get above there, we have to get above that $2 level, which we already know. This isn't news. We've just been watching this. A lot of this is a lot of noise in between. This is one that we formed on XRP. But when I started looking at it, I'm like, well, Tom, if you're honest with yourself, this is also another rendition here where we could kind of pull this after a little movement and be like, actually, you know what? I think this was the one where I was trying to. My son is listening to Christmas. I love it. Julie's listening to Christmas again. So yeah, this is on this one. This is why I like to look at this one like this, because we did have a pretty big breakdown here, and we could measure this out and see if maybe it's trying to build us something. But the way that it fell out, that's why this is going to be a very big area. Like there is no doubt about it. If we can't get back over here, we have to acknowledge where we did fall out. And like, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Like, okay, XRP, long term, I do love XRP. I love XRP. I just want to make sure the ones who view me and put the faith in what I do with the technicals, the news and stuff, but the technicals are why people come in. Anybody can put together a little bit of news. Not everybody can put the charts together in a way where, So what I think is that big opportunity in the future, but we have to make sure, like when we're positioning, when somebody new is coming into this market, I want to make sure that they're coming in with a clear head. I want everybody coming in with a clear head. I'm a huge fan of XRP, but like I got a telltale sign with what XDC did that, you know what? We have to see how this plays out right now. We have to see if XDC now broke down, because now it's on the bearish side. And with how many times it moved up, we now need to see if it can recapture that 4.18 cents. Like we really need to see if this is building some kind of reversal here. If this is now going to be a nice shoulder, head, shoulder. This would be a beautiful back test retracement. It's just, we need to see, because the way it fell out, I was hoping personally it would have stayed up here and stayed on top of that descending broadening wedge, but we fell right back in, which sometimes when you fall right back in, you come right back down to the bottom, and then maybe how it showed this kind of a setup. You want to get out, Ghost? And maybe it does need to come back down, and when we expand it back out and we take it from the wick, if this doesn't break out, maybe we are looking at that down here at the descending broadening wedge, and maybe it is going to do something like that even further, and we're going to start to retest these lower levels. MQ said it. Like, if you're buying at these levels, you're walking into the slaughterhouse. And it's not that it can't break up, but you got to get proper validation. And volume predicts the price. And every single time we fall down, look at XRP. We need a volume spike. If we get a volume spike, okay, that would be great. It would be great. And yes, we're massively oversold. But I know I'm listening to my son's song right now that he's listening to with Christmas. Hey. He loves Christmas. He just loves Christmas. So I want to do Christmas, like, I want to go somewhere where it's every single day of the year. $100.62 in the spot market for silver. Gold silver ratio. And look, gold silver ratio is not even capped yet, because remember, we were actually a little bit lower. But it's this whole thing, like, my projection was when it broke out of this entire thing, when we were doing the silver stacker video in 22 and 23, this was my prediction that we would fall out. This was actually a falling out. And then we predicted that the breakdown first area would be 46,672. But then if we do it from the whole scale, but we would have to break down past here and then obviously invalidate here, then we could come to 34. But I believe that we're going to get some kind of wild bounce. That doesn't mean that silver is going to go down. That just means I think gold is going to have some kind of movement. Yep, this is a bear market until proven otherwise, and gold is in a, you want to talk about a super cycle? That's what gold and silver is in right now. We talked about super cycle, but a lot of people were focused only in one thing. This is the craziest wealth transfer I've ever seen in my life. And this only comes around once, what do they say? Once every, they say once in a lifetime, but this literally comes around once. I think they say every 200 years you get some kind of transfer like this. And I'm so blessed, honored, humbled, and thankful that our Lord and Savior, Yahweh, allowed me and some of you just the foresight that this was coming. And for some reason, the ones who speak the same message, we understood. It's not about the miners. It's about the gold and silver and just the prospecting of what was coming. Now, how high does this go? If $100 becomes the new floor, like it could, and gold 5,000 is the new floor. I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think there's a reason, and I'm a big chart person. And like when we start looking at these miners and they're predicting after these consolidations, which are super aggressively bullish, it's not our fault they were this wide. You know, you're talking about going all the way back into when this resistance hit. This is over 10 years. If this is really the breakout, it's talking about $67. And we didn't just buy today. Oh, no, no, no. It had bounced here. We did what we had to do. Remember, it had the big drop. And when we seen all this happening in January of 25, that's when this whole time period, eat up. It goes, I mean, if these do this, like, oh. Oh yeah, I know what you said. I know exactly what you said, Elmer. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for 1 year with the I told you so bad. Or I mean, with your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Yeah, the next projection was to see how we could react at 100 spot 56. Then we had 101 like 30. But I mean, where do we go? Where do we go? This pattern, this chart, like I would be remiss to say I don't want to see $100 being the floor. If $100 is the new floor for silver, and look at this big setup, like that setup leading into this, if you put it in a smaller time frame, I mean, this is we're when you talk fucking vertical, Like sometimes, and this is what the scary prospect is, sometimes when you go vertical like this, do you know what ends up stopping the rally? And not just stopping it, I mean like we go sideways for a little bit. But it'll do something like this and then whew, and then you'll just get a straight top for a while because it's exhausted. Are we gonna do something like that where all of a sudden we're sitting at like 175? You know, the Treasury didn't, or the US Mint didn't revalue Silver Eagles to 175 on Saturday last week for no reason. Like, I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And what do they keep doing every day? I'm starting to realize this with crypto. Just think about this. As silver's had this entire rally to 100 the last couple weeks, the entire rally to gold to 5,000 the last couple weeks, what have they done? They've been pulling us by a string in crypto by pushing it up 7% one day. But that 7%'s only been the recovery from a 15% loss. Like now we're getting excited because XRP is trying to get to $1.93. When last week we were getting excited because XRP was trying to get to 216. Then, or 2 weeks ago, then we were excited because it was trying to get to 206. Then we were excited because it was trying to get to $2. Now we're excited because it's trying to break $1.94. I mean, they got us pulled. And as we're watching, if we weren't exposed to that side of the market, I would be pissed right now. But fortunately, I've been doing that side before I got into crypto. So like I told everybody, sometimes it's like when you do something, sometimes you meet somebody and it's for a different reason, but they've already had experience somewhere else. And then all of a sudden you're benefiting from two places at once just by virtue. But because I had experience in that market, I don't care about what everybody says that I'm an asshole or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I told you in 26, I seen the comments. I just don't feed into it anymore. So I appreciate the defense, but there's no reason to waste your positive energy on that. You know, all we need to know is where are we invested, guys? Where are we invested? When everybody was waiting for crypto to go down, what was our toolage? Or when everybody thought it was going parabolic after that run. We were in it before the parabolic move, but we understood that we had to siphon out and go into this market over 1 year ago. And we knew that in the silver miners a year ago, but before that, what did we do in 22 together? Between 22 and 23 and 24, before gold got to 2,000 and silver broke 28, it was a metal buying. In particular, silver, when I did a silver stacking series for almost a year, separated, trying to push the message. It didn't get very many views, but then again, my channel was a lot smaller a couple years ago. So we have our own built-in group understanding for the core members where everybody can talk the junk. And the truth is, you know, that they know no better. They're just sitting there. They don't know any better. And it's nice to stir up a little controversy. But when you can walk the walk, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the ones in the audience, because you understand what's happened. You don't have to feed into it. You can just be like, you know, it is what it is. But Mrs. Stott, I appreciate it because you said it so I didn't have to. So you guys can do it all. You guys can stir it up in the comments. I'm just saying by my example that I'm going to lead by in 26, I'm going to be more defined and focused. Especially with the triple X Haas strategy, as we know. But we have to do it at the right time. Like right now, we just got to make sure. But I still, because this didn't break down, if this breaks out, because this technically to me seems like a symmetrical triangle, I think we can call it that. Just because we have the slight uptrend. Now, there are some that would, but it doesn't have the downtrending support. So we don't have to go down that road yet. So we can still break out of here. It's just this volume portfolio is atrocious. And if it continues, it's a lot easier to find sellers in this market than buyers, as you know. And when it lasts for so long, you know, Bitcoin needs to get on its little horsey right now. Otherwise, it's going to get itself caught up in a liquidity siphon down to the... That's why I did my title the way I did. I wanted everybody to come in with the objectively knowing, like, if we're forming some kind of bearish pennant, which so far, I think we can say we've kind of avoided it barely, but I don't know because we can look at it a different way. And I could make the case, and I don't want to make that case. I don't want to be that guy, but I have to be that guy because nobody else will be that guy. Nobody else wants to take the heat. Someone's got to take the heat. If nobody takes the heat, how do you know what the glory is? Let's see. That's what we need to break out of, and then we can get to the top side of the bigger pattern. That's what it sucks because when you, in the stochastic, when you start going up like this and it gets so overbought so quick, that means there's not as many buyers. So you just have to be careful on any very volatile movement. That's why I'm just cautiously optimistic here. Like I keep saying, it's okay to be cautiously optimistic in areas like this. We just want to make sure that this is not some kind of bearish bull junkie. And I tried to make it as small and noticeable as possible. Whoops, not from up there. That would be a dick move to do it from way up there. Let's just call it for what it is. Because then that's going to make people jump off a bridge if this were to break down. But this is what we're trying to make sure isn't building. You know, like if it is, I at least want to know in the first part of this pennant. I don't even know if you could call it a pennant at this point, but it's speculation and conjecture, okay? It's speculation and conjecture that this is actually somehow building a bearish pennant in here if it were to break down. If not, then we don't have to worry about this in the first layer from here. Don't think the first layer is just going to go all the way down there because that's not how this would play out. And conversely, if this breaks out, well, now we got an upward target, but we can now, which would be that downtrending resistance for the most part. Whoops. So, I mean, you're talking about either 86,636 or the extreme would be 83,600 out of this if we broke down. Now, conversely, it could get us back up into here. Or conversely, remember, if it doesn't break down, it breaks out. What the hell is this? Why does it look like that? Oh, that's not even my chart. That's where it can break down. Wasn't that interesting that it's in that spot? I was going to show you the descending resistance. Oh, it's right here. That it could come up to. How crazy is it that that's that close where that's set up? Okay, we need to delete that for now. And then this is actually opening itself up. And that's what I was trying to show in the beginning. Like, we need to make sure that we're not just coming up to a resistance tug. And I'm all for it. I love watching this kind of stuff. All right, now I need to see exactly. It would be interesting if these were opening these. That's the one thing I hope is happening. A descending broadening channel, or a descending broadening wedge, I should say. If that's happening, oh, we're okay. We just need a breakout here. That's why we can hang our hats on possibilities here. And we've got so much liquidity over the top. I don't want to say it's over, because it's not. We've got a chance here. We just need this to break out. You know, and the fact that it didn't go like this and build to the downside, looking at these, I know we should feel very bearish, but if I was a betting man, I would say, hey, we got some topside liquidity here, and we just might be able to make a game of this. You know, so the title's for that for a reason. I actually did bring this in. I just forgot to put it on. It would have made more sense when the show started. But then I got caught up with silver. But don't think that this is up. We're just 100% out of the woods. It's not that. It's just we have some built up aggression here. No, don't say that, Soul Jeffy. Oh, absolutely, MQ. That's why we need to make sure these aren't just fake outs here. We need to get over the overriding resistance over the top here. Well, it's not broke out yet. XRP to break out, this would have to get over the top. If it got rejected here, it'd be building the case that that's a third rejection, and that's what I mean. Like, don't get overzealous here because you don't want to get overzealous. That's why I didn't put it on yet. You want to make sure there's a point to be made here. You want to make sure that it breaks out past some of these short-term resistance. And we've got a major resistance that's right here at $1.95. Does that make sense, everybody? Or am I kind of talking people out of the... Am I scaring people? Or I'm trying to be as honest as I can here with what we're seeing. Because this, literally, we still have inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder. And, we're at that point right now on a lot of these. We're legitimately at that point if you go wick across. We're at this point where these patterns are trying to decide. They're deciding, are we going to continue on with this movement? Or is it over right now? And this one's a perfect example, too. Like, and it's within what looks like, I don't know, maybe that is a... Because these are building something here. Even if you go back here and you start looking at this, they're building something within this. From a wider standpoint like that, is that a descending, broadening? I don't know if I'd say a wedge or a descending, broadening channel. I guess it can't be a channel if it's broadening. But then again, sometimes a channel can broaden because it's out on an angle on the one area. Bullish for short-term traders. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like, and that would be like up to if it breaks out. I always say if because every single day it seems like, until we invalidate this little death cross that's formed here, I always think it's a little fake out here for like the couple minute trade or the small move for somebody who traded 88,400 up to 90,300. Well, that was a good trade, and now they're probably selling out. We're coming back. We have to make sure the stochastic's not actually hitting it on resistance right now, which we're at resistance area. So this is where it would make... Sola Jeffy said, past 2 new moons count 12 days. Look at chart. 12 days. This new moon is government shutdown vote. Personally, I knew I should have sold, but big things coming. So Sola Jeffy, do you think that we're going to rally into the government shutdown, or do you think we're actually going to start dropping off here? Do you think that gold and silver is trying to tell us something? Platinum up 6%. Do you think this is trying to tell us something here at the end of the week? Like things are not good? Do you think that these are just in their... And the crazy part is, and this is why something is off, normally at the end of a gold and silver rally, silver is exponentially outpacing gold for an extended period. All of a sudden you'll see it. Well, what happened here in the last, and this is a little bit ironic, over the past couple of weeks, we've kind of had a tug of war where gold and silver were kind of, and it hasn't gone much from 54 to about 50 right now, 49. But we kind of been in a tug of war for a few weeks. This should, if it's in the last phase, you would see silver literally go, and it would have a big candle, like a big one. Like maybe this is starting something, but this doesn't seem like, because we've got a long ways to go still to finish even this entire move. It's a much wider move than just this. Like this, I mean, we got more movement here. But it looks like gold is going to start to, at some point here, push back. It looks like gold would push back. But when you look at the short metrics, it's telling you that as quickly as the buyers come in and this ratio goes back up, the gold-silver ratio is an interesting one. Because look how fast it's going back and forth. But in the daily, just from a day or two, it went back into overbought, which means that there's a lot of demand for silver right now. Like even these metrics are telling us this. It's pretty crazy. So I don't know what to expect right now. Like we're in uncharted territories. We are in uncharted, like, hey guys, I know exactly what's gonna happen when it's over $100 for the first time in history would be an idiotic thing to say. In gold, I mean, its technical target out of this short consolidation is 5,203. If it goes up to 5,200 and then it tries to use 5,000, like if these are the new resistance or support areas when they start to do this, like if silver's trying to build a support floor at 100 and we start out next week at like 105, 106, and gold starts out at like 5,200 or something crazy and we start using 5,000 as the floor, that's an indictment on something. It's a huge indictment. And it's hard because I want to 100% focus on crypto, but there's a lot of outliers that are going on around the markets. But this would be a nice silent point for crypto to pump back up to the top of these patterns. Because let's be honest, what did XDC do? It pumped up to the top of the pattern. So if we're going to pull the XDC move from yesterday and all these cryptos, this would be the time. You break out of this part of the pattern, and then all of a sudden across the market, we have about a 10% pump is what we could be setting up. Now, does it make me excited that we're going into the weekend? Not exactly. You know, I'm never excited going into a weekend. But, I mean, we still have all of this set up. It hasn't broke. This hasn't broke. Like, all of these kind of show the same thing when you start to look at it from a longer range. Like an expandable. So it's either we're getting ready to break out soon. We've hit this a few times too, as we can see. 1, 2, 3. And when you look at it as an expandable broadening wedge, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of understand what's happening here, I think. They all look like this. So if they all pull the same movement of XDC yesterday, they should play up here. Let's see what Bitcoin's doing. Yeah, because even Bitcoin. But if we're looking at it like this, we might have to dare say like Bitcoin's doing something expanding like this, which we're not going to want to look at it long term. But no, anyhow, it looks like what we talked about yesterday about this potential to the upside with that liquidity up there there's a chance for this to play out. But it could be a quick veracity, it could be very quick when we get up there if we do break to the top side. If you're new, the best thing I can tell you is opportunity comes to those who are willing to take a swim in the blood. I don't know if that resonates. XDC is not giving up without a fight here. So if XDC pulls back around, because that is still an inverse head and shoulders. Like these short-term patterns, are not done yet, it doesn't look like. But, could these all be fake outs here this morning? Could we just fall right back? Oh, we could. Ethereum right back to where we were yesterday. We held that little. Well, now we can actually build this pattern out, which will make it much easier. Because now we know what it was doing. And now we can see a clear breakout on Ethereum. Clear breakout happening. So Ethereum is going to likely with this small breakout. I mean, it's looking like we're trying to form this breakout as we speak. I see potential breakout happening across the board. But, is it going to last? Is this a mirage? I don't know. I don't know if it's a mirage. I think it's actually happening. It's just, can we find volume to make this more than just a couple week thing or a couple day thing? Can we last through the weekend kind of thing? I guess would be the more important question. What do you guys think? Yeah, I'm queuing. And isn't this about 3 days out? And now if we do get this rally, this would quickly push us up like 10% across the board. Like when it got stuck in this area a few times, then all of a sudden, now all of a sudden it would just power through. And for a few days, we'd sit here and be like, oh my God. And then the greed would take off, I think. Yep, 211, 214. I do like that. And then if you look at all the tokens across the board, you can start to see exactly where, those areas of concern would end up being as well. Like where your chosen tokens or the ones that you watch every day, where they would have their points of interest. So I'm very interested at this point. Like I said, I'm invested right now, just under the illusion that we're gonna break to the top side, but understanding that it could cost me a little bit of coin here if it doesn't go out in the way that I think it's going to. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, sometimes the risk comes to the one who's willing to swim in the blood. And I have an overall feel of where I need this to break out to where I would feel good long term. But, that it would take a lot of work for me to long term go, okay, I'm good. We're good. Don't have to kind of exit out of some of these other positions, along the way. It has some work to do. We have some work to do, but that's okay. Work is good. When the market has to do work, it's actually a good thing. Because right now is where the liquidity grabs can happen. Because I can guarantee you there's a lot of people scared right now that are not doing anything. Tom, FYI, you are only YouTuber I'd recommend to a friend. Are you serious, Sola Jeffy? I can't believe you said that. Thank you so much for that vote of confidence. And I take your word highly. I respect you. You've been in here for a long time. I feel like even in the beginning, I won you over unexpectedly. I don't think you were expecting me to win you over. Or am I misreading the situation? Um, but thank you all so much too. The ones who are in Tom's army, a special shout out to, because each and every one of the people you see with the emoji badges next to them are the silent sponsors of this show. If you want to sponsor what I do, simply become a member of Tom's army. It's the greatest thing you could do for my community and to help continue to build our brand without having to go to the extraordinary lengths of having special branding and things like that where they'll take control of the channel. So I do appreciate everybody who allows me to have that uniqueness. Really, really appreciate it. And I do think we have uniqueness. I think we have a very unique, what we do here is very unique. And I am blessed. So, what do I want to see here today? What do I want to see here today? Sorry, I was looking over. I got something from my brother. He's talking about the weather. And, we could get some very, very, very. I hope we don't lose power here to where I can't do like some of these shows, but we're getting some very serious weather. Frankie Fresh, thank you so much for that. Says joining the army will be the best decision you make. And thank you so much for 6+ months with the XRP Predictor, allowing me to continue to do this in the way that I feel is necessary. I do appreciate it. So right now and across the market, we are possibility of breakouts. In the 4-hourly, they look like, remember what we did yesterday with XDC? This is the best I can say. If this breaks out, this is what you'd be looking at. Coming to the top of these expandable broadening wedges. And listen, XDC is a big teller right now. If XDC swings back around and actually breaks out here, it's going to be good news for us coming a couple days from now. Because look at this, broke up from the bottom. We back trace, and this is where H bar is right now. H bar is breaking out of this area, and it's trying to come up here into this expandable resistance. Oh yeah, I went pretty nicely. I have a nice amount of H bar, Tanya. When it made that move down and started building this inverse pattern, when it came down to the bottom, it was bad. I don't remember where it was at. The inverse pattern started. I've been watching it, but once it created this wick and then the head, I'm trying to take a chance on this formation when it came down. It's up. Like I said, I could hold it until it comes through here and not care. But I really am hoping that maybe it was like this, and when you pull this tighter and you look at this expandable wedge, it's something like that. And now it's playing out. Now we need to come to resistance because it needs its third tap. Because if you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, now we need to see this area of resistance again. So I'm hopeful that this market can put together a 10% run. But I am cautiously optimistic because I know that this market is heavily volatile. And if it doesn't pull up here, well, the difference between a 10% up and a 10% down is a very narrow gap way right now. It's very narrow. You know, and I hate to say it, but it really is a very narrow positioning. So, and right now the market's trying to figure it out because they're slightly trying to come over. And now we're back testing that initial movement. If we get that push up for algo, it would have to be over 1232 roughly. It's actually a little bit lower. No, it isn't. It's higher. Because I like it right there. It would have to come over 1235 to push back up into the higher pattern. If it does that, we can save ourselves an immediate flush. But, you know, just be careful. Just be careful is all I'm saying. And there's nothing wrong with trying to swim in the blood. But sometimes when you swim in the blood, you become death by proximity, so to say. But it is true, often the ones who do the best are the ones who are willing to get into the murky waters when the fear outweighs the greed. Let's go where the fear and greed index is on an overall standpoint today. Ooh, down to 24. I know yesterday was at 20, but it's only at 24. That's a good sign. And maybe trending to the down direction with the way the market's been moving so far today. I love the comments in the chat. I won't speak on it so they don't ban the channel today. You know, but I agree with the comments. Something that's really grinded my gears over the year that it seemed like the general folk didn't pay any attention to. Man, Mrs. Stott, I know crypto is one thing, but were we on the money when it came to PLG, huh? Wow. After almost 10% yesterday, it's up 15% today. Moving very close. It's coming right up to our targets. Well, I mean, the high target is way... That's where it's... That's what I'm saying. Like, some of these are projecting these what seem like unrealistic targets. Like, right now the short target's 358, and it looks like it's every bit coming up to there in a heartbeat. Like, holy smogolies. So, is crypto's inverse patterns going to play out and give us the same reward here? Or is crypto going to leave us looking at it going, you know, I'm getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of watching all these damn markets move while my market sits here and goes, hello, thanks for playing. Come again. When the surefire bet, like this is what ends up happening. When you start seeing metals and you start seeing the actual physical metals moving like that, and you're like, I could have just invested in silver and I'm up 4.5% today. And look at PLG. I could have invested in platinum. I'm up 6% today. PLG's up 15.4. Let's go look at my cryptos. Oh, good. They're lower than yesterday. I'm glad they have a green. But yesterday I was higher. Yeah, at least Bitcoin's over 90 for the next 3 seconds. Yeah. So when people start getting that mindset, and it's true. It's so true. People get the mindset, and then it's like, and right now, I mean, I know it's come down a little bit from that quick spike, but now is that quick? We're quickly backtraveling to see if we're going to actually have any kind of veracity, any. You know, we've seen the evidence if it's going to break out. And if it doesn't break out and it actually is a fake out, and we come back through, well, you know, but right now it's just back testing the attempt up. So Bitcoin needed to come back violently like it did past 90K again. And now it pulled back up to what, $200 or whatever. We need to do stuff like this. Same thing the rest of the market's doing. Everything is just back channeling what it just did. I happen to agree with MQ. I happen to think XRP is probably going to go up to that 211 to 214 area. But like I said, cautiously optimistic, because if this doesn't break out and these are building these pennants, this is quickly going to go from a, hey, we have potential here, to a, uh-oh. So I think it's a great day in this live. I think it's a great day to be watching these markets. USDT dominance. Another thing we have to watch. It's come up to the resistance now. It's actually come up to this resistance. So if we break out of here, this is a pretty wide breakout that this would have. And we've been talking about this upper area for a while. So we just need to make sure that we're going to consolidate here for a couple days. But the 4-hourly were oversold. The daily, it could come down here a little bit. It broke to the bearish side just a little bit, but there's still a lot of momentum. Weekly's pulling down. But it came up to a high week wick, started pulling back down. I don't know if you can call this a reversal doji yet. Is this turning into a spinning top? I don't know. That wick's pulled down a lot in the weekly. This is all speculation and conjecture. And then for this, how would I do this on a weekly standpoint? I think it's pretty simplistic, actually. I think I'm measuring it something like this. And I'm calling that an overreach on this little candle. Interesting. Interesting, because that weekly's pulling back pretty heavily here, and it's almost done today. I almost could say that this could be a bearish doji forming in the weekly with how much it's pulled. Well, we'll have to see how it continues to play. Man, I'm really interested in XDC to see if it can continue to play back up here, because it's trying, ladies and gentlemen. If XDC, I still think XDC gave us the guidance. Because look, shoulder, head, shoulder, even in the short term, shoulder, head, shoulder. And I swear I'm seeing the same setup. We're in this descending, broadening channel or wedge, shoulder, head, shoulder. And then if it goes up and back down, wider, shoulder, head, back down, like resistance to shoulder. It's like building it one step behind. Is this another case where XDC is telling us so clearly what's coming that if we just listen, we can't lose? Shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder, wider head to the top, build a shoulder, and then it would be a shoulder, head, shoulder. Or are we getting rejected here? Like, is this just a case where we just have to listen to what's happening already? Is this a case where if we're just not trying to find too many differentials and we just look at what's there, is it already telling us? Shoulder, head, shoulder, kind of push up, back down, wider shoulder, head, shoulder if it comes all the way up to build another shoulder. I mean, I don't know. It kind of looks like. What do you, can I ask for your honest, do you think it's going to do what, do you think it's showing us what's going to happen, or do you think that's just hogwash? Because patterns tend to rhyme, but they don't repeat, but they often rhyme. Unless these are all just bad setups and it's just going to fall through and kick us in the dick, which in crypto, we're used to that. Yeah, like for me, where I live, there's too much light pollution where I'm at to really see the deep sky. We're lucky if we can see a few stars. But honestly, anybody have an opinion? I don't want to cut into your guys' conversation. Um, but I am generally interested with this part of the pattern. Like, I really am. I really feel like something sneaky can happen. No, don't be sorry. I don't know. Continue your conversation. I like it. I actually like it. It shows me how involved the community is together. It's actually a good thing to see. From my perspective, I love it. I do love it. Um. Anyhow, let's continue. I'm just having fun looking at all of this. Even pumps have been short lived. They sure have. They sure have. Um. Frankie Fresh says he thinks we're gonna break out. We're still trying to meet those metrics, but we're trying. We're trying to pull exactly what XDC did yesterday. Believe it or not, the exact same. It's the exact same. Like if I was looking in the time machine and said, "What's going to happen?" I mean, I can look at this exact same thing with XDC. Like we had a shoulder, head, shoulder, pull down candle, and then all of a sudden in a 4-hour candle, we just started to move. So I would expect the same thing if we're going to have it happen. You know, we have the shoulder, like that's high for XRP. Head, shoulder, like when we come down, we even had this big pull down here in the 4-hourly. And now, could this be the start of that candle that starts to spike us out? If we're going to get a spike out, it's going to be soon. And we've only got one more weekend now before we go back into, you know what, the escrow dump. So this would be that week where, maybe we do get that upward volatility. And the next area to look at would be 202. Get past there, we can start pushing that 211 to 214, like MQT says, as well. And yeah, being at 20, what is it, 4 today with extreme fear, that tells me there's not a lot of people taking a risk in the market. Because it was in the 50s when nobody should have been buying right before that drop. And we're almost, I think it went back to the 60s maybe, and we're sitting there going, what the hell is going on here? And then right when it was an opportunity to buy, it went right back down into the 20s, which was crazy. And now, wouldn't it be a perfect time if we were going to do some kind of movement? It gave the fake out yesterday. And now today, everybody's not looking at crypto at the moment. I think a lot of people are probably looking at silver, gold, trying to see like if they're looking at the platinum market and seeing mining stocks up 15+%, in that sector. But I don't just pivot from some things. I look for opportunity that exceeds what I already thought I had. And that's why I was so interested in PLG. And I marked my area. I marked my territory. And then I cycled back around 4 times as it gave me chances. I initially started with 1,000 shares and then increased to 4,000 as it kept hovering that 250 area. I couldn't believe it. Like it should not have come back down to that last time. And then when I seen the shakeout in platinum where the chart was at, I'm like, oh, this is too easy now. Because it made this the short-term consolidation that it ended up having here for a period of, what was this? Since the 6th of January. And when it started doing this, I knew. Once it held this one right here on the 16th on Friday last week, I was like, oh, this is game over. You could tell because it did it once, violent hit, second violent hit, third violent hit. You could tell. This is a symmetrical triangle, and this is a bullish continuation pattern. It's like, or an ascending, well, it's like an ascending triangle, but, and so you started watching this, and you're like, it's just a matter of time. So And we could have went like this and had it expand out, but we kind of watched it more like this to see if it pulled back up, if it could break through, and it did. We kind of just measured it out that way. But technically, I mean, you can look at it like this because that's, if you want to look at like how volatile or how much veracity there was in that. I mean, look at that. That was such a wide actual movement, but it does make more sense up here. But we don't even need that. The only reason I like that resistance over the top is because you can see resistance, and then it actually broke out and back tested it, and it's still pushing. And the technical target was 2008-19, which means, does that mean if it's up there, is this just going to push 3,000 and start making that? I don't know. I do know a lot of times in history, platinum is more expensive than gold for whatever reason. I know it's more scarce and whatnot, but still, you know, that is there. So we're just saying the other day hit fear 9, then scare everyone out of their position in fear of entering. Then she rips, misses the bulls, and squeezes the short. And what did it do, BMQ? Isn't it crazy that it dumped out how it did yesterday? And it was down to $1.88. So yeah, we're up to $1.92. And some people are like, well, we're down from yesterday. Yeah, but at the lower part of this, it literally had that shake was pretty extreme if you think about it. For the people in leverage positions, it came up to $1.98 and then it shook down to $1.88. That's what that was. That's a huge liquidity. I'm gonna have to look up the numbers. But that's anybody in a conservatively 17x or up is done. Most people, even in a 10x trade, who's sitting through a 52% down. You know, even if you're in a 5x, that's more than 26% down on that movement. Who's sitting through that? And then the carnage is, you know, it's pulled up that much now. But if you got liquidated, it doesn't even matter. Now it looks like this is where leverage sucks. Because if you got swiping out of here, what would you be thinking right now? Oh, this is bullshit. I knew there was an inverse pattern setting up. And I thought this was as far down as it could come, but technically it didn't come through the head. And oh my God. And now look at it, it pulled up. And now maybe we'll get lucky and it's like a spinning top and it's just, and then you're going crazy. You know, but if you're in a spot position, like, hey, you know, that's some volatile movement, but this pattern's still intact. I think we can still come up here. No harm, no foul. My portfolio, I don't look at it anyhow because I don't care if it has this paper gains or losses until it does what I need it to do kind of thing. That's the difference in mindset. You know, it's a difference in mindset. It's still surreal to see silver. And no matter how much we talked about this, it's surreal to see it over $100 and trading above it pretty comfortably. It did come down one time. It went over 100 initially. I know, ever so brief. It went over 100 initially. And it was a small pullback, like 100 spot 80 something, like where we're at. Came back down to 99 and some change. Actually, it was on the candle before that. 100 spot 24, and then it came back to 99.42 roughly. That's the one. Yeah. So now we just see. This is just crazy. This is just crazy. When people are like, what does vertical look like, Tom? That's what vertical looks like. Tom, what do we want to see out of XRP? This is what we want to see out of XRP, everybody. What do we want from crypto? This is what we want from crypto. We want vertical. Like, this is vertical. We've literally entered no man's vertical. We've literally entered. We've entered stupid now. This is awesome. When you go vertical, nobody knows. Is the volume still coming in? It sure as hell looks like it. Even, what do we have? And remember, this month, there were so many days off. There were so many different holidays. We had the New Year to account for. You had closures and all this stuff that was affecting the markets for a couple days. It's just unbelievable. It's just it's unbelievable to watch all of this. And I'm just blessed to be here with all of my friends. And MQ, thank you for reminding me about PLG, because I talked about it earlier a couple months ago when it was forming the consolidation. And I'm like, I have to just remember when it does the breakout. So then when it's in that consolidation, can buy the break. And because you brought it up, I did not forget about it. I was talking about it here. And then I kind of forgot about it. as it made the move. And then when it back, when it was doing all this, well, you talked about it, I think, when it was coming off of this area right here. I remember I talked about it here when I was going to make the pivot back in June. But then I ended up, well, I'm glad I didn't initially, because what I didn't pivot out of ended up moving way faster. But now with the little pivot, you know, being 230 initially, or 240, somewhere around there, because it was in end of December. And then it came back down again in the 240s. Then when it came back down again into the 250s, it's almost like you couldn't believe it was given that chance again. So I'm blessed with that. So thank you for that, MQ, for being very adamant about that. And that's not a joke, some of these targets. Like, those are real targets. This is legitimately one of them, again, that has broken out for the first time. And it's been in this pattern for... if this move is actually broken out now, mind you. It's been in this move since like 2016, consolidating. And with platinum prices appreciating so fast, I mean, this is a company that has legitimacy, and it should be back up here. And it was up in the $100 range for many years. It went between 71 and 520, and then it had a new base between 73 and 158. It's never retested this big drop off from way up here. So when you talk about gaps, there's a gap at like that $100 level on PLG. If you look deep, that could be just a big cup and handle that was forming from that level. And if you want to talk about a conspiracy or something out into the future, into the la land, when we get a little bit more older, swing, build the cup out. Wouldn't that just be a huge head and shoulder, or inverse head and shoulders? Build a handle. I mean, that's having some foresight, you know, into a long future. But honestly, what do you think about that? I mean, MQ, could you see something like that? I mean, what if this is actually what's building up in the future of metals, because of how... think about where the pricing is going to be and how high everything is right now. We haven't even done earnings yet. Do you know what's going to happen when we do earnings and revenue for miners this year? My only regret, MQ, and I didn't buy more platinum, physical platinum, because I wanted to focus on silver and gold. I bought a couple ounces of platinum at $700 and $800. I think it was 2.6 ounces total is what I have, or 2.5 or 2.75, whatever it ended up being. A couple ounce bars, and then a couple of them in smaller quantities. But nothing crazy. You know, I focused a lot more on but I didn't have a lot of money or currency when I was doing this back. It was literally like, hey, I got $300 left over. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to buy fractions, you know, like I'm going to buy 20 ounces, or I'm going to buy... Absolutely. That's why with this move in crypto, I feel comfortable, because I feel like a lot of the crowd right now is all they're saying right now, and it's a kind of repetitive thing when you look in social media, is that we're going down to those areas that are lower. And yeah, I acknowledge it. MQ acknowledges that there's a lot of issues right now, but the bottom line is liquidity likes to find, like, these markets like to find the liquidity. They love liquidity hunting. And guess what? 96 on imbalance. Remember the imbalance on XRP. 96% of the liquidations on that, it's like $50 billion that ended up happening. The imbalance was 96% of those, or 94% of those liquidated. And you have to feed into these numbers. You just have to. 96% of them were longs, which means with that kind of an imbalance, there's a lot of money that can be switching hands on a move up now. The longs have been liquidated, and now the shorts think that they're in control. And right when a certain sector thinks they're in control, what usually happens? You know, it usually becomes an interesting prospect. It really does. So, you know, am I convinced about... No. I would be shocked if they didn't go after the short liquidity now. I would absolutely be stunned, as a better word. Actually, flabbergasted might be the best word. I would be flabbergasted if they don't go after that liquidity. I just would. So I'm not telling you to go buy this market. What I'm telling you is don't be surprised, especially, if you're in the leverage market and you're going short, if it doesn't work out so well at this exact moment. Nobody can predict the future, but right now, if I was gonna move the market in one way or the other, there's not enough liquidity to the downside right now. When you take 94% from the market, so I don't need to be convinced if we're in a bear or bull market. I'm just looking for liquidity hunts now. That is all I'm doing. I was convinced we were in a bear market last January, even though I knew we had another push up to retest it. That's why I was so quick on the flip. That's why I was just so quick on it, because I could feel it. I've seen it in this market. And then when it moves, it moves. But now we also know when there's imbalances, I'm not an idiot. Because when everybody's looking down, there's always moments where if there's enough liquidity one way or the other, they can quickly pull the wool for just a day, a week, a month, and then just reverse it right back down. And what I think is happening is we get this little exit. If this does pump, we get an exit pump for anybody who's down below, like some of the bigger guys. And then for a few months, we trickle down. We go into not the Clarity Act, but we go into midterms. And then when midterms swing back around, then it starts to pump again after. But I think after whatever the hell this is doing, whatever we're doing here, and it should be the same as what XDC did, in my opinion. We should do the same thing XDC did yesterday. I'm not going to say I'm banking on it, but that's why I'm still holding out, because I think this inverse pattern absolutely plays out. But if it doesn't, it's just going to be that much more pain. I think it plays out, though, in our favor. I can't guarantee it, but it looks like Bitcoin wants to come up here and at least retest that 93. But there is a lot of liquidity up higher. It's just, I don't know how high we can possibly go. But on this move, I could see 93-ish if we can continue this, maybe up to 92.7. But I'm more intrigued by what Ethereum can do on this move. I have it all charted out. And I've been watching it for a few days. Ethereum, if this pans out, it's looking at that. It's not a major move, but it would come back up, and in all intents here, let me for all intents and purposes, just from the short play, it would start to come back up near this 200 day. This would push it up to about 3,091 on this breakout. And that would be conditional. You'd have to hold 2,931. So it's got about 1.5% to the downside that if it came back down, it needs to hold that area. But right now it is breaking out of that area. But that's the reason this title. I put down that the XRP lack of volume and bearish pennant could send XRP to $1.58. I wanted more focus on the longevity of what's happening. Because if we come out to 201, it's going to further that case, or 211, and we don't break it. The worst case scenario is we come up to 211 or 214. Or no, worst case scenario is we come up to $2 or 202 and we get rejected before we can even go there. And then come right back down and play out this death cross in the 4-hourly, which the 100 just crossed the 200 in the last day or so. So, well, I mean, I guess the worst case scenario would be this doesn't even materialize at all. We get rejected at $1.93-ish area where we're at, and then it just comes right back through. I guess that would be worst case scenario in the moment. But still have some hope here. XRP holds $1.80. So far, we've held that area, which does help us. Going down to that $1.84 to me helps cement this push up, because we needed that liquidity. By doing that with that imbalance, I'm just going to continue to preach it. That imbalance is something, it's special. You don't often get that big of an imbalance, and you often don't get the precursor of XDC being able to show you what's likely to come, as it played out of that same pattern. Now, I'm very intrigued with XDC, because it is possible here that we're trying to break out of here and then we can go up to these next levels. If that's the case, we in fact could have a rally leading into February, but there's a lot to be determined here. Because even if you get a little excited, you have to remember we're in a bear market. So then I quickly rein my own thoughts back in. So, but I'm gonna go, everybody. I want to go. I want to go get some ingredients. I'm trying to perfect this pizza because we didn't eat a lot of it, even though it looked good. It was still way too thick, and it's because we did it as a 16-inch pizza, and we did the ingredients as a 16-inch. But to get that good New York pie, you got to do 12-inch ingredients and stretch it to a 16-inch. That was the secret I discovered. I got in PLG at 235 when it broke out right before Christmas. Yep, I bought it at in the high 230s right before Christmas, and then I bought it at the low 240s and then the mid 240s, and I ended up with 4,000 shares, and my average was about 243 MQ. So I'm very happy about that. I bought more than I expected to, but when I started looking deeper into the chart, it's like if it gives me that opportunity, that's why I kept saying every time it comes down there, it's like I don't know about this move down. Just like I kept saying with Dolly Varden. That moved to $4.50. I doubled from 1,000 to 2,000. Now I don't know if that was a fake out. Nobody does. But it's back testing the move now. Here, let's put this properly. I think when I had it, I did it like this. Yeah, because I liked the way it hit this. Wick, front wick, top wick, through here. Yeah, so this gives us a little bit of, that's why I did it, for when the breakout happened too, I believe. Could be a little bit higher though, but no, we're in uncharted territory, so we have no, like the miners don't exactly know what to do today in gold and silver. Platinum Group, PLG, it was just it built up aggression. And our short target was 358. Well, my short target was. And then the longer target is much higher, but then we need to see what this consolidates into. But I mean, the good news about this particular one is in the 4 hourly, we got plenty of room to still run. That shows you there's a lot of buyers here. The fact the 4 hourly moved that much in the last 2 days and it's still not overextended is insane. If this was crypto, we would have went through we would be in another planet right now and it'd be on fire. Nick, you said, didn't hear you tell everybody. Are you serious? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to Nick, MQ? Nick, we definitely been talking about this for days. I even talked about it 2 days ago when I bought more when it was in the 250 range, the low 250s, and said this doesn't make sense. So yeah, we've been talking about this because the ones I had on the chart, remember I even deleted Hecla Mining and some other ones, and we had Dolly Varden, and we had Fortuna and First Majestic, B2 Gold, and PLG were the ones up there. And the reason we had that was PLG was down at 240 range, 250, and it was overextended to the downside, way undervalued. B2 Gold was at like 430, 440 again, which made no sense. So it had to have a little bit of a move up. Whether it's done or not, I don't know. We'll see how we react. And for First Majestic came back down to like 17, 18 for a minute. Fortuna was back down to like 9. And Dolly Varden was at 430. It just where it was at, it didn't make sense because they were ready to break out. So we targeted those. It's okay, Nick. Literally, I come on so much that there's no possible way, and that's not your fault or anybody's fault. I come on so much that how are you supposed to see everything? Some of those days when I talked about it, we were on for 2 hours and it was like a 12-minute thing. So unless you watch the whole 2 hours for that little, so yeah. But I try to go over metals every single time, and I've been trying to start earlier with them and ending with them as well. It's hard. Elmer, thanks for the $10 super chat and also being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. But if anybody wants to gain a deeper grasp at all of this, the video description below, and or pinned comments of this very live has the ability to join the classes. I would encourage you. They start February 2nd. And I would love to see as many of you as possible in here. I really would. You go to YouTube and you go to the memberships area and you come on here and then you go to my, you got to view all. And then if you go to the proper section, which, I can't show you on mine. I would have to log into the other account, but then it's going to log me out. So I can't really do that. But if I go to upgrade, if you click upgrade, you can upgrade to the live classes. And there it tells you right there 2 sessions a week, 1 hour each, total of 8 classes and 8 hours per month. There will be exclusive access to members only video recordings from over our live class action sections. But it's not just, and this is what I want to make clear. You're not just going in there to learn technical analysis. It's so much deeper than that. Like, there's so much you need to learn before you ever hit the technicals. I don't know where I last posted this. So, like, this is just a rough estimate that I put out 9 days ago. And, like, we're starting with the foundations of value, the why. So before you're looking at a chart, you must understand the nature of the game you're playing, the evolution of money. You need to know what money is, the store of value versus medium of exchange, fiat versus hard assets, the concept of inflation versus sitting in an account. Like, stuff we should have learned in school, for real, that they never taught us. In the second module, we'll talk about the purpose of investing, wealth preservation versus wealth generation, the magic of compounding and the lethality of losses, defining your financial North Star, the market ecosystem, who the players are, retail, institutional, market makers, central banks, how markets actually move with supply, demand, and liquidity. We'll talk about the psychology of the trade, the who. The trading is 80% psychology, but we address the mind before the mouse. We have the human bias in markets, the fear of missing out, and revenge trading, which is huge. The gambler's fallacy is more than just a theory. It's a reality. And loss aversion. In Module 5, we'll go over developing the trader's mindset, thinking in probabilities, casino versus gambler. And you'll hear my language. I talk like in this code a lot from stuff I've learned. This is why I have this mindset of what I do. We'll talk about, getting familiar to basically the canvas, which would be like the trading view and setting it up in the proper way, like how I've been in the Heikinashi and like with the EMA lines and certain toolage you can use as a beginner so that you can make it a little bit simplistic. We'll go into the candlestick introduction from an anatomy standpoint and the 1 minute scalping, but I don't necessarily think we're going to focus on scalping so much in the beginning. It's just a rough draft. I think we're going to be looking at it from a long standpoint before we get into scalping because that's a more veteran trading move. Like I said, this is a rough draft. And then we're going to go into the core pillars with support resist. But as we get through this, there's a lot of stuff and it goes so much deeper. This is only 13 modules. I think I have 37. So if we were this veteran, what comes after all this is even more extreme. But I didn't want to knock people's dicks to the floor before we even start or knock their minds out of their head. Oh my God, silver's at 101.07. It's already been knocked out. My nuts just hit the floor. I'm sorry. That we're a positive and not invasive community. My guts just hit the floor, I guess you could say, when I don't think we're done with platinum. That's the other thing. No, I did not get into Goro. Unfortunately. It's not that I wasn't paying attention, it's just that I might have forgot about it, honestly. I wish I wouldn't have, but I did. My mind can only keep up to so much stuff. But it was a great call, nonetheless. Let's see. No, I do think platinum could catch up to gold. That's why I think the platinum play is strong as hell. I think it's a strong as hell play. But, we'll see how this keeps playing out. We're just officially now at 23.10. We finally got over the all-time high. So we're literally in discovery mode big time. We had come down back and retested below. So it was a brilliant move that this had from 25.74 all the way back down to like 2100. And even further, we're at 25.53 and we came back under 2000. That was our move. That was our retest. We needed that desperately. And once that happened, I know it looks like we're overbought in so many ways, but you can stay overbought for years. We were oversold for years and years in gold and silver, and nobody said anything about it in platinum. We were so oversold for so long. And now, to get up to the real rate of return for silver, it's something like $200. We have, and Is it by surprise that the US Mint revalued silver to 175 on the US Eagles? The new silver Eagles? Is it by accident? I wish it wasn't. Sometimes I wish the markets weren't this predictable because it just shows how rigged it is. Sometimes, yeah, am I happy we can make money and stuff? Yes, but sometimes with crypto, it's actually a little bit demoralizing when we just talk about something. And when it went to 89,800, we said that's just a quick retracement to retest the breakout, so don't even pay attention. And now in 12 minutes, it's back. Like, look how many people got liquidated on that tug. And 12 minutes later, now all of a sudden it just jumped $1,200. The only thing that changed, they turned off the sells. Like, it is a bit demoralizing. Nick, I will check out Frank Black. Oh, I forgot I have critics in here. I keep forgetting. Well, I shouldn't forget, but I often find it's kind of embarrassing how many people bash on what I do because I literally shared all this for free since March 24th of 2021 and continue to. The only point of the class is if you want to take a deeper dive. Like if you're sick of not understanding things right in the moment, if you want to learn more just outside the markets and just being a better economist for yourself, being a better advisor for yourself, you can be your own technical advisor, financial advisor, central bank, economist, market strategist. You can be it all. You can be the foremost expert on the US dollar, metals, crypto. You just have to know how. You can learn the emerging markets. You can learn the carry trade. You can learn what the US trade right now, the sell USA trade is what's happening right now. The sell US trade is the bonds. Remember what I predicted with them lowering rates, but yet the bond rates would go up? Loan rates would go up even though they actually lowered rates. That's happening. They lowered rates and our interest when we borrow money, our interest rate went down, but borrowing money went up. The government bonds have gone up since they lowered rates last time, somewhere around 4% to 4.25. That's a quarter base point hike in bond rates, but they lowered rates. This is inverted. This is inverted. Tom, you only said two things I didn't agree on. Like when you said you were selling XRP, well, that's kind of a stretch. I bought a $5,000 second bag of XRP, so I could sell it when it went to 38 cents. You're fostering the illusion maybe still that I don't own XRP. I still have my 34-cent bag that is over 10,000 tokens. That was a pure collateral pull, pulling money out of something that I didn't use at the time of $5,000 because we got a gift at 36 cents. And I made it very clear I was selling it when I went over $3 that bag and near all-time highs because I wasn't going to get caught with that bag on a 60% drop. So the other, I agree with you, buying too many cryptos, 100%. No, Elmer, I don't look at that as stirring up the shit. I think that's calling out back history so people know. That's not bad. You didn't make a presumptuous accusation. You just said things you didn't agree with. That's okay. But I absolutely agree with what you said about owning too many tokens. That's why I went back to the triple X Haas strategy. The basics, XRP, XLM, XDC, Algo, and HBAR. And I know I have XRP Healthcare sitting in a wallet. And that's fine. I know what I have to have for CRO to use the card and stuff, but I'm talking about from a basic strategy point where everything else, I don't touch anything else. I'm straight and narrowed. And ever since I did that, but look at this 10-year government bond. If crypto looked like this, I'd be so happy. Flag, big W reverse. I mean, this looks like these bond rates are going up to like 440. This was my prediction that we were going to have an inverted yield curve, that they were going to be cutting the yields, the bond rates, the interest rates on the country, but everything else would be going up. This is horrible sign. This means now, even though they're cutting rates, our loans are still going up in rate value. That's a inversion. That's inverted. I can't even tell you how, like, we're not just in inflation. That's a clear sign of hyperinflation. How about IOTX got a bag of that you recommended worth nothing? That's your own, you bought it when you bought it and didn't sell it when you didn't sell it. There's times to buy and sell. IOTX actually had a nice move, but we're in a bear market. We're in a bear market. I recommended it. It was something that, I mean, that's it. Is that the approach we're taking? Okay. I see what the Lord is doing. I see what the Lord is doing this morning. So, we won't go down that path. I get it. I see what's happening. You know, the good and the bad. It's okay. You take what you can. You take what you can. I say every single day, I'm not a financial advisor. You know, so that's your approach, my friend. Mm-hmm. That also means I'm overstaying my welcome today. You know, because I'm running out of things to say. Let's see what else. We talked about. That was an interesting trade we talked about right here. Remember with MicroStrategy when it was down at 157, and the breakout you were watching was if you wanted to see it at 170, if it could hold, could technically be a possibility of a big, you know, if it actually moved. And I know because if you're trading crypto and you don't want to be part of it, but like take a massive look. Like this is what scares me too about crypto. Like this is the biggest holder of Bitcoin. What if it is just building out something like this? And then his company falls out as Bitcoin. Maybe this is just a push back up as Bitcoin comes out and it breaks up to like, I don't know, 100 maybe. What if this did have a quick rally of like 30 to 60%, or maybe 50% or 20%? Like, and then the world's largest holder of Ethereum is right here. That chart don't look much better unless it can break through. But I'm gonna go. My son wants he's gonna want, I can hear him. And I've been on long enough. I've taken enough heat from some of you, and I've got enough good grace from some of you. So now it's my job to get it all back together and to come back stronger next time. So to my fans, my haters, my likers, my dislikers, the ones who propped me up in this live, and the ones who kicked me in